This is Defiance Daily, dispatches for the defiant. Thank you for joining us today. This is a special day. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, we do our weekly mission brief. This isn't just the headlines of the day. This isn't just a deep dive into the abuses of power we are seeing in Washington. This is a conversation about what can be done about it. In case you are not familiar, at defiance.org, every single week, we announce a new mission that we are undertaking to restore the constitutional order, to protect the rule of law, and to combat abuses of power. Today, we are going to be making several special announcements. Perhaps the most exciting one comes at the very end of the show. You do not want to miss it. You do not want to miss the special guests we have and what they are dressed up in. Stay until the end of the program to hear that announcement, to be the first to hear that announcement, and your opportunity to be involved. But the bigger picture today is the role of new media in fighting censorship. There's a lot going on in the United States right now, but I think more than anything, whether you are Jimmy Kimmel or whether you are James Comey, there is a conversation about a crackdown on First Amendment protected speech. But folks in the new media ecosystem have something to say about that, something to say about the protection of the First Amendment. We are seeing the explosion of that ecosystem, and members of Defiance.org have said they want to make sure that we are funding, backing, and supporting efforts to get the truth out there in a time of turmoil. We will talk today about how we are doing exactly that. We will talk to a panel of experts and new media leaders and journalists about the protection of the First Amendment and fighting censorship. But before we get to all of that, we have breaking news that we want to point out today, and this is something that we're going to be talking about more this week. And let me just give you the headline. This story just broke moments ago. According to the Associated Press, immigration officers, ICE agents, are asserting sweeping power to enter homes without a judge's warrant. I'm going to read to you from that story. This story, by the way, comes in part from one of our partner organizations that Defiance.org supports. I'll tell you about that in a moment, but this is the headline. Federal immigration officers are asserting sweeping power to forcibly enter people's homes without a judge's warrant, according to an internal Immigration and Customs Enforcement memo obtained by the Associated Press, marking a sharp reversal of long-standing guidance meant to respect constitutional limits on government searches. The story goes on to say that the memo itself, which we do not currently have, but this is according to AP's reporting, authorizes ICE officers to use force to enter a residence based solely on a more narrow administrative warrant to arrest someone with a final order of removal, a move that advocates say collides directly with Fourth Amendment protections and upends years of advice given to immigrant communities. Now, this shift, of course, comes as the Trump administration is expanding immigration arrests around the country. This news story is sure to draw a lot of attention this week. And as I noted at the top end, this story comes because two government whistleblowers, two anonymous whistleblowers, came forward and engaged with an organization called Whistleblower Aid, an organization that you all, members of Defiance.org, have supported for exactly this purpose. If you remember, a couple of months ago, we went forward with Whistleblower Aid and said, we are going to back their efforts to encourage people inside the Trump administration to expose presidential misconduct and abuses of power. This is an example of exactly that. And tomorrow on Defiance Daily, we will talk to the people behind this case. We will talk to the lawyers involved, and we will dive further into this story. But for now, I want to get to the topic at hand for today. And I want to bring in our panel in a moment. Today, we are bringing in an extraordinary group of people to talk about the role of new media fighting back against censorship in today's climate. And that's going to lead into our revelation today about the mission Defiance.org is undertaking. I want to introduce today first Julian Walker into the conversation, who is founder of Pushback, a media organization that uses digital storytelling, history, and news to educate and mobilize the Black community. Push Black has 9 million members, an extraordinary organization. Julian, we haven't met before, but my co-founder, Xander Schultz, talks about you constantly, and I'm thrilled to have you on the program, my friend.
Hey, Miles, happy to be here.
We also have the remarkable Jessica Yellen, who has more Emmy Awards, Peabody Awards, and Gracie Awards than I have, which is 0 in my case, but it's several for Jessica. She is an award-winning journalist. She's an author. She's a founder of a remarkable independent media outlet called News Not Noise. I hope you are following her. If you are not, you absolutely should. You should be subscribing right now. Jessica Yellen, welcome to the program.
Hi, great to see you.
Great to see you, my friend. And finally, we have Brian Karem, also an American journalist, also a veteran of the White House beat. I suspect you guys sat not far from each other at one point over there in White House land. Former CNN political analyst, White House correspondent, and he is also the host of another new media program that you should be following called Just Ask the Question. Thank you, friends, for joining us. I want to start off by just saying today that we have been, a lot of us here in this conversation have been talking for about the past year about how there's going to be the likelihood of a Trump administration crackdown on the media. That's been forecast for a while, and we'll get into some of the details around that. But we just saw the other week a Washington Post journalist's home raided. And I think that finally got people waking up to the fact that this is coming. Jessica, I want to start with you on this front and just ask you, in the wake of this pending crackdown, and now it seems like the administration's going that direction, what role does new media have to play to try to evade these censorship actions of the Trump administration?
Well, I think there's two different parts to that question. There's what do we do in servicing the public, which is to continue to report the news as that's happening without false balance, without merely quoting them and actually putting what they're saying in context, explaining where they're misleading us, lying, missing the picture, etc., and following stories that the traditional media is under pressure not to follow. That pressure, we can talk about what it looks like. It does not look like, hey, reporter, you can't tell that story when you live in a large media institution. That's not how it works. There's just a lot of understanding that if I push into that direction, I'm likely not going to make air. So I really should push into a different direction, right? That's how that generally works. Beyond that, I also think this raises really important and concerning questions for people who are doing our work independently. The person whose house was raided, that journalist, is protected by the apparatus of the Washington Post, years of history of knowing how to defend people, institutional power, legal funds. If somebody like one of us were, targeted by the Trump administration, it's a very, very different reality for us and something we're all going to have to contend with.
Well, Jessica, I'm glad that you mentioned that. I mean, it's one of the things that I want to jump to, and I'm going to play a clip here about it in a second. But we all saw over the weekend that there were these anti-ICE protests that disrupted a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota. And in the wake of that, a former colleague of some of you, a friend of some of ours, was there covering it. Don Lemon was on the scene. And in the wake of that incident, Justice Department officials have said there might be consequences, even arrests, for people up to and including Don Lemon, arguing that journalism and coverage of the event is not a shield for what they call a criminal conspiracy. And in fact, here is the chief civil rights officer at the Justice Department talking about this on, of all shows, the Benny Johnson Show, a conservative podcast, singling out Don Lemon. Take a look, and we'll get a reaction on the backside.
Here, but let me just say that he's a journalist. He was a journalist. I don't know what he is now, but journalism is not a badge or a shield that protects you from criminal consequences when you are part of a crime. And I think the videos show how close he was to these folks. None of that matters. It's off limits to go into a house of worship to do your little protest. Protests can occur on public property. Protests can occur outside, on a sidewalk, certain sidewalks, not all sidewalks. And this is like basic what you learn in the first year of law school. There's a time, place, and manner restrictions on the First Amendment right of protest, and they were violated here in this case. No question about it. The only question is who was involved, how many were involved, and how many charges are going to be brought here. Those are the questions.
How many charges are going to be brought here? I mean, they are saber rattling. I want to throw this question to you, Brian, because Don Lemon says he was reporting. We don't know all the facts and circumstances of the event, but it does seem chilling that the administration is potentially threatening a journalist here for engaging, and this wouldn't be the first time. You've been on the receiving end of some of those threats.
Yes, I've been jailed 4 times. I've had my newsroom violated. I've been subpoenaed, but my home has never been searched. Speaking to that, but to speak to Don Lemon's case in particular, this woman doesn't understand the first thing about the First Amendment. There is a guarantee. We are the only profession guaranteed in the Constitution, protected in the Constitution. Free speech, free press. So we are protected. There is a badge, actually, if you want to use that term. But to her point, first of all, a church is public. So, and he can walk in. Now they can ask him to leave. I've been asked to leave many places in my life. And so you can go in as a reporter. The key is, are you identifying yourself as a reporter? Did you walk in and say, hey, I'm a reporter and I'm here to cover it? Or did you do something else? As long as I always identify honestly, here I am, I'm a reporter, I'm covering it. If you want me to leave, I'll leave. If not, I'm not going to leave. But the bottom line with this administration, I have to push back a little bit, Miles. This trying to stifle the press is not new in this administration. He began in his first administration. Jim Acosta lost his press pass, had to fight to get it back. I lost mine. I had to fight 3 times to get it back. He routinely intimidated. He was particularly noxious around female reporters, still is. Call them rude, call them snippy, told many of us to sit down. They have now in this administration, they've upped the ante. They're not going after individual reporters. They're going after the organizations. And so you're right. I'm sorry. You mentioned about the Washington Post being able to protect this one reporter. Mm-hmm. That's correct. They have institutions. And I will only say to Jeff Bezos, lie down with monkeys and see what happens to you, buddy. Because that's what he did. Donald Trump is a carnival barker. He bowed to Donald Trump. And now Donald Trump is his organ grinder. At the end of the day, he should have pushed back. And I started out in this business when I first got into it. 80% of what you see, read, or hear was operated and owned by about 20 some odd companies. Today there are 4. It's like Standard Oil. It's like the big oil companies. 4 companies pretty much run the business. And I guarantee you they're not leaning right or left. They're leaning towards money. And it's been the systematic disintegration of the norms of journalism over the last 40 years, which is why, leading into the subject, why you need to free the press. That's why you need an independent press. Ben Bagdikian.
Well, I want to ask, Julian, I'm going to come to you in a second, but I know that Jessica is tight on time. She's got to jump to another commitment. And so, Jessica, before you have to leave us, I want to ask you a question. Look, you've been in mainstream media. You've been at a major media organization, CNN, for many, many years. And you've been in independent media, really since independent media was taking off. And you've built a juggernaut at News Not Noise. Tell us the optimistic side of this, which is as the administration is trying to crack down more and more, especially on major news organizations like CBS and going after your alma mater, CNN, and trying to take that over. What is new media bringing to the picture to make it harder for any administration to try to silence dissent?
What we want, which is really what it's about. We don't have a board of directors. We don't have a publicly traded company that owns us that's putting pressure on us not to upset the administration. We've seen time and again that these companies are feeling pressure because of deals that they want to do completely unrelated to the news. And so they appease the administration, and that filters down to those corporate newsrooms. We don't have to deal with any of that, right? So we are more exposed in other ways. And it's worrying. I think that one of the biggest problems with what we see the Trump administration doing is they are wielding the law as a way to shield themselves and their agents from responsibility when they need to. That Department of Justice person you played a quote from earlier, making up false insinuations about Don Lemon breaking the law because I don't even remember her words, but the way they use the law to shield themselves when they are acting with arbitrary intimidation, and then they use it to attack their opponents, right? And so that is frightening, especially when you're a large publicly traded corporation and your shareholders are pissed and they want to make money. So we don't have to deal with any of that, but we do have to deal with the consequences of these threats. So I think that the biggest opportunity and scariest challenge really is to continue to be fearless and just essentially speak truth to power, call what we're seeing as we're seeing it. I mean, I think that I'm so honored to meet Julian of Push Black. I've admired your work for so long. You all do that by speaking to an audience and all of its needs. So it's really just impressive and cool what you do. I think we have enormous freedom right now, Miles, but there's also all the pressure that's going to come down on these social media companies that we do a lot of our business on, the pressure that could come down on some of these venture capital backed platforms that we do our work on too. I mean, Julian has an advantage. I think his whole system's text based. And so like, unless Verizon comes for him, he's kind of good. But, you know, I think about all these things when I stay up at night, you know, how could they come for us? But our opportunity is to just speak truth.
Jessica, really appreciate that. Julian, I want to flip the mic to you on exactly that question. And thank you for your patience. You all exemplify how the new media ecosystem can get information out there to folks very fast without going through the endless times of filter and censorship. Talk to me about that experience and how that has led to real action on the ground.
Absolutely. One nuance I'll put in there is, so I'm a co-founder of Push Black, started with my buddies about 10 years ago, and I left the organization in June. So not here representing Push Black, but I can speak to what worked in my experience there and elsewhere, and as I advise others today. So what we found with that project was that there's two big things. Taking the cultural approach as opposed to a journalistic approach. I think there's space for both in this ecosystem. I'm a storyteller at the core of it, not trained journalist. I don't have a journalist background, but we're telling stories that connect with people's identity. We're shaping narratives in a certain way that allow them to see themselves in ways that the mainstream media was not allowing. So that's what was successful there. And as Jessica mentioned, what we're able to do with that project was reach people where they were. What we saw when we first started it was that folks were not engaging in the mainstream media in the same way. This was a decade ago, and that trend is continuing. The key there was say, okay, where are they getting information? Where are they getting stories? And how can we speak to them in a way that is culturally appropriate? How can we speak to them in a way that taps into something that nobody else is tapping into? Once you're able to do that, and speaking generally with any audience, once you're able to tap into that identity piece, that's how you can move people to either take action that they're already somewhat aligned with, or move towards a behavior change when they start seeing a certain type of agency in themselves that's not being promoted elsewhere. So that's why that became successful. And that's why I think any organization that is trying to seeking to engage and move people has to start with that identity factor that's embedded in a narrative warfare type engagement.
Well, and Brian, there could not be a more important time for this. I mean, you and I have talked a lot about it. We've already talked about it a bit here in the program. This administration's crackdown on the press is unprecedented. And I want you to give us a little bit of a sense of the scale and scope from your vantage point. But first, I want to play a clip because yesterday Donald Trump gave a press briefing on his first year in office, and
was that a briefing, really?
Yeah, I'm not even sure what you could call that. I mean, it was a bizarre
salad monologue.
And I was almost going to say a bizarre performance, but it wasn't even a performance. In fact, it was interesting. I don't think she would mind me saying this, but former White House Communications Director Stephanie Grisham and I were messaging about it, and just concerns about what seemed to be the president's mental and physical state. I mean, he was just it was bizarre even by Donald Trump standards. Go ahead.
It's obvious that from the first administration to this, that there's been a decline in his mental and physical health. There's just, from someone who's been in the room and 10 feet away from him, I can tell you point blank, he ain't right.
Well, and I tell you what, and that would be something that Brian in the White House press briefing room, you might not be able to say, and they might exact retaliation. But there was a particular incident that really,
and they did.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, you have experience on that, and so does our buddy Jim. But take a look at this clip from yesterday, and let's talk about it on the back end.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Happy
I've
New Year.
never seen this room like this. Is this a celebration of the first year?
Yes.
Have you ever seen it? I've never seen this many. I hope we have a very good. I hope we have a very good structural floor. You know, this used to be a swimming pool. You're sitting over a swimming pool. I could see that happening. But this, we need a good structure here, don't we? Huh? Yeah.
That moment, is this a celebration of the first year? And you have, Trump-friendly news outlets that have been given press badges, and they're in the room chanting. They're cheering on the president. I mean, we would mock something like this in Moscow. Please.
Well, look, there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, he's full of it when he's telling you that he's never seen it that packed. It has been much more crowded. In fact, the most crowded briefing I ever attended in that briefing room, from Ronald Reagan through this guy, was the last press briefing of Obama's presidency. There were probably 150 to 200 people stuffed in a room. There are only 49 seats. And I mean, it was sweaty and sweltering. This wasn't even close to that. Secondly, yes, what you talk about is so vitally accurate for people to understand exactly how we've been compromised in the press. To begin with, we can no longer go upstairs in the upper press area where we used to meet and greet cabinet members of the administration, guests coming into the White House, and we could talk to them informally. And it helped facilitate a dialogue, which helps the administration communicate to the outside world. They don't have that anymore. We're stuck. Basically, when you see that briefing room, that little closet area where they go off to, lower press is where we can drift to. That hurts. But the big thing that they've done in hurting is making sure that the people in that briefing room are aligned with the president. He has taken over the assignment of the pool duty so that when he does speak to people, that they are pool friendly. So the Reuters has two of the most experienced reporters out there, Steve Holland and Jeff Mason. You don't see them anymore. They ask some very good questions. Trump doesn't want them around. You won't see the AP there. You will see Fox. They have 2 or 3 seats. They have new media seats everywhere, and they'll let anybody in who, and I mean, I haven't even heard of some of these, so-called news outlets that they have let in. But he'll let in everybody who is aligning themselves with him. It becomes propaganda. The cheering and the chanting is unprecedented, and it's unfathomable, and it's un-American, and it's unconstitutional, and it is helping for us to destroy the press. By the way, I will go with a shameless plug. Free the damn press, right? Third printing of that. I outline in there the need to break up media monopolies, the need for independent journalists, but the need for the independent journalism. I was going to quote earlier Ben Bagdickian, and then I'll finish, but that's who I would quote, who said that as long as you are, to me, the independent press is our future, because without it, the corporations are screwing us over. But Ben Bagdickian's words should still ring true. Your allegiance, when you're in that room, and when you're a reporter, and I don't care if you're a new journalist or an old journalist, but when you are a reporter, your allegiance is not to your boss. It's not to your publication. It's not to your own career. It's not to your friends or family. It's to the public at large. So you should be in that room willing to ask hard questions of someone, even if you like them. If you can't do that, don't show up. That's not the job. And I'm tired of having to defend that. And you talked earlier about what would they do if you did that. Well, I'll remind everyone, when he lost the last election, I accused him of being delusional to his face. I asked him, when are you going to stop being delusional and admit you lost the election? As you can see, he still hasn't. And his delusion, his deterioration is accelerating. And I don't know how much longer he's going to be around, but you look at who's warming up in the bullpen, and that guy's nuts. So it's, you know, it's frightening to me what we're seeing on a daily basis out of this White House. And Miles, one of the reasons why they don't want us around, they don't want reporters asking tough questions, because they know that we're going to find out the truth about Donnie, and Donnie is not well.
Well, Julian, I want to flip this one to you, because if the White House is stacking the deck of Trump-friendly journalists in the press pool, then what is the role of independent organizations, including your own, out there in the real media ecosystem? Let's not even call it the new media ecosystem, because Donald Trump is creating this alternate reality at the White House. What becomes the role of those organizations when the regime is stacking the deck?
Yeah, so this is an amazing time for organizations that are doing work outside of the system. It's much easier to get online and stream as we're doing now. It's much easier for folks to build an audience and tell stories that wouldn't have made it to primetime TV, to primetime news back in the day. So the fact that it's been democratized, I think there is a responsibility of media creators, journalists, to take matters into their own hands. There's a sense of self-determination that has to come with it, with that responsibility as well. We're not out here looking for folks to give us a pass to say, okay, we can or cannot report this or write this story. Speaking of we as media people, journalists, I think that what we're doing now in this space is taking advantage of somewhat guerrilla tactics. We can move faster. We can report on things in a split second that may have been a little slower, much slower, with the bureaucracy that I understand the bigger companies to have. So there is a nimbleness that comes with it, the ability to really tap into your audience in a different way, and the ability to connect with them in a different way. And there can be something for everybody. Then the power of that is not just individual voices, but coming together behind the scenes to form a strategy and alignment around what an overall narrative would be, and how each group can speak to that in a certain way that's authentic to their audience. So I think there is a sort of an individual or organizational strategy. Then there's a broader coalition-based strategy that can allow folks who want to move in a certain way to move in a certain way, but not even be overt about it.
Well, I'm glad that you say that, because as evidence of that, I mean, this program today, one of the reasons we were a couple of minutes late starting is we were the first program out there broadcasting the news that you heard at the very top end, the breaking news out of the Associated Press. We know the folks over at Whistleblower Aid. We follow their cases closely. It doesn't take us 2 hours to go vet the AP story, have a million conversations, put something into the queue, go to the editor. Like, we can take that live and also do it responsibly and make sure that people are informed and reacting as this administration is flooding the zone, including apparently with systematized efforts to violate Fourth Amendment rights, to say nothing about what we've been talking about with First Amendment violations. Thank you both so much for joining us. Brian, first, you tell folks where they can find you, where they can subscribe, and then Julian, same thing with you.
Well, let's see. You can go to, the book is called Free the Press. It's in its third printing. You can see me at Salon on a weekly column I have there. The podcast is called Just Ask the Question, wherever fine podcasts are sold. And then you can also see me on Substack, Reporter's Notebook. Like everybody else, I'm in all the worlds at once. So come on in and enjoy it. The weather's fine. Come and join.
And Julian, how about you? Where can folks find you?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Miles. You can catch up with me at callresponse.co. If you're looking to build a media effort, then I have some ideas for you. So please reach out there.
Fantastic. Thank you both for joining. Thank you for what you're doing to fight against censorship and build out the new media ecosystem. We'll see you both very soon. And thank you to our friend Jessica Yellen, who joined us. She had to leave early. Another fantastic addition to the new media environment. Please follow her at her program, News Not Noise. I'm going to welcome in my co-founder of Defiance.org, Xander Schultz. Xander, before we bring in our guest today and the organization that we're going to be highlighting, I just want to get your reaction to that panel and this overall topic of, let's just call a spade a spade. Donald Trump lies on a daily basis. I say that as a lifelong conservative. You are a lifelong liberal. It doesn't matter what your political orientation is. You turn on the TV and the guy lies endlessly. And now he's trying to make sure that the media covering him there at the White House or mainstream media propagates those lies instead of challenging those lies. That is what is happening. And that's why we're highlighting what we are highlighting this week.
First of all, I got to turn my hat around because we are already two white guys with beards. To have the same hat facing the same direction, it's too much.
It's too much. It's too much.
But to answer your question, I find myself repeating myself on our daily podcast all the time, saying, it all comes back to the information environment, this challenge we're in even peeling off Trump's base or organizing our base or trying to take collective action together. It's so challenging because we have these decentralized networks that are siloed. And so reaching one another is hard. The traditional media environment has been failing us for some time now, really pushing a kind of corporate agenda that's been sanitized and can't really speak truth to power. Miles, I'll say this: yesterday, you did a great interview on NPR, and NPR is, the best of probably the big guys in so many ways. But the very end, I don't know if you caught at the very end of your piece, that they followed the end saying, and we got a comment from the White House, you shouldn't trust this guy. And it's like the traditional media can't help itself but try to get both sides, no matter how often one side is lying to them. And so there are all these challenges with traditional media right now. In the meantime, because of the way journalism has shifted, I know Tara's going to speak to this a lot, so I don't want to go on too long. We lost local journalism. And when we lost local journalism, we lost the understanding that a lot of our politics happen at the local level. The information we're consuming is national in nature. And so we forget our justice system is local, our education system's local, and so many other of the issues of our lives are figured out at that level where you can still organize and achieve victory and things aren't so partisan and aren't so polarized. And so, the ability to add back local journalism and healthy journalism is so key to getting us out of this moment. So I'm really happy that we have Tara on with us and we're talking about this.
Well, let's, Xander, bring her into the conversation. We are thrilled to have with us the founder of Courier Newsroom, Tara McGowan. And, I could do a long introduction for you, but I think it's sufficient to say you've served all over the place. You've been on Capitol Hill. You've been in the realm of journalism and political strategy. You founded multiple organizations, major organizations that have played in some of our biggest elections in this country. And now you have been laser focused the past few years on exactly this issue Xander mentioned. What do we do in the wake of the death of the local newsroom? How do we continue to bring truth to the American people and not just from a cable news program? So I want to open there, Tara, and just tell us about Courier, and then we'll dive into some of the issues we were talking about in the panel.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, guys. Good to see you. And thanks, Xander, for turning the hat around. I had FOMO. I was like, where's my Defiance hat? I'm sure that I can buy it on the site. Really good to be with you guys and with everybody watching who's here, supporting all of the opposition efforts and work that you guys are standing up. It's so important. As Miles, as you mentioned, I started Courier. It's actually almost been 7 years now, hence all the gray hair that I didn't have any of when I started it. But I started Courier in large part to try to address that problem in some small way that's gotten bigger and bigger over the years. But really, that perfect storm of the death and diminishing of local news across this country as big tech and social media platforms cannibalized traditional advertising streams. A lot of local news publishers couldn't keep up. National publishers that could really just evolve their business models to only focus on elites, folks like us that proactively consume a unhealthy amount of news and information who will pay for it. 83% of Americans don't pay for a single news product in this country. So I really did feel like the chasm of people that had and were consuming access to good local and national journalism and reporting and those who weren't is one of many factors that contributed to how we got here into an authoritarian takeover of the country. Misinformation, disinformation, and algorithmic feeds that keep us in our silos and keep us divided are one of the biggest problems that we have that have led to this crisis. And now, of course, it's compounded by the fact that legacy media outlets have fully capitulated. So I often say, I mean, I was just nodding furiously through that whole panel of our friends talking about this, but I say now a lot, there's two kinds of media in America. There's state-run media, which is media that is for this administration, for shareholder reasons, for propaganda reasons, for political reasons. And there's independent media like Courier and like what you guys are doing. And media is everything now. I think, Courier, we're currently in 11 states. We're going to be growing. We have reporters on the ground in each of these states. And in a very short time, we became some of the biggest local news outlets in our states because we prioritized making sure that the content was free and it was actually produced and designed for the way people consume it today, which is mostly scrolling with attention deficit disorder on crack on social media, their inboxes, super skimmable free newsletters. We have an over 52% open rate, which is insane. People love our journalism because they can consume it quickly, know what's going on in their community, know how what's happening in Washington is impacting them directly. And our national outlet that's kind of exploded over the past 2 years. We're one of the primary news sources for people under 40 on TikTok in the country. Gives us a really amazing opportunity to flywheel, to get local stories, human stories that actually tug at people's heartstrings, make them really emotionally connected to what's happening politically, into the national bloodstream so they get more attention. So there's so many challenges we're trying to address with this. No one news organization or network could solve them all, but I'm so proud of what our team's doing in these frontline states, because most of our states we're in are the frontline states, both politically, electorally, and in the fight against this administration.
I want to
let me throw the mic to I was going to throw the mic to you, Xander, but first I just wanted to say, I mean, Tara, when I think about what you guys are doing, it's like, it's not doom scrolling. You guys are Zoom scrolling. You guys are honing in on the issues that really, really matter in the ways they matter to people where they are. And I trademarked that just now, so you can't take it for Courier. So, but it's really just extraordinarily impressive what you built. But sorry, Xander, back over to you.
I'll catch the mic. I wanted to just focus in on the local journalism piece of your work. I think just like Julian was saying with Push Black, not only are we used to scrolling, but we're also used to being able to curate our content. So it's specifically speaking to us. And that piece in journalism has been missing for a little while as local journalism died. And there is, as you're well familiar with, Tara, this correlation between extremism and the loss of local journalism. And so I just want to hear a bit more about that thesis, what you saw that made you start focusing on local journalism as kind of the entry point for Courier, and just share a little bit more about what you're doing on that front.
Yeah. So early on, when I was sort of conceiving of the idea of Courier, I read a report that showed there was a direct correlation between access to local news and local media and civic participation, voting behavior, essentially. And so the problem I originally sought out to solve was I had moved from, I was a journalist early in my career at 60 Minutes, Frontline, CBS Evening News, and then I pivoted into politics. And I started to run a lot of organizations and major digital programs on behalf of progressive candidates and causes. I worked for Obama and a bunch of others. And I really felt like one of the biggest problems was actually the people that were tuning out, especially people who used to be reliable Democratic voters and increasingly young people who now self-identify as independent more than any other group, that we needed to actually expand civic participation in this country. We needed more people to feel a sense of agency in order for things to not go where they currently are today. And so that required actually being able to build trust with audiences, which sounds like an obvious statement, but that's not actually what political campaigns or elected officials who spend advertising dollars on television are doing. It's not what parties that are gaslighting audiences with poll-tested talking points are doing. Trust is built locally, and it's built by showing up every single day for people and people being able to rely on you. And so that required a much bigger solution than a campaign idea. And that was building year-round local media infrastructure that, again, really cared about the people that we're trying to serve who don't want to hear about GDPs or inside baseball politics of DC. They want to understand what's happening with the school their kids are going to, or if they're going to be able to get a job, or if the minimum wage is going to increase in their community, or if ICE is coming to their community and what to do about it to protect their neighbors. And so that's what our teams have done, is they are buy-in from these communities and are reporting on those stories. And those stories are the thing that actually change hearts and minds, if we can get them to get more traction. And we've seen that. Our team has broken a ton of stories about people that have been detained by ICE, families that have broken apart. We just had our New Hampshire team broke a news story last week about a Republican state legislature that, audio leaked that she wants to resegregate schools. And so it really matters to have a presence in communities. And to answer your question, where you live is so much a part of your identity, right? It's just more visceral than how we're thinking about how hopeless and helpless we can feel when we're looking at the big picture, and how do we shift the dynamics of the political parties, or how do we wake Democrats up, or how do we get this fascist lunatic idiot out of the White House? Like, it's much more tangible, and you can actually give people real agency more quickly when you inform them about what's happening in their community and give them actions they can take. And I think that you guys would agree, we're seeing the most courageous stuff, the most inspiring stuff that is keeping us from tuning out and moving to Europe if we can, or just disengaging. It's the heroism that's happening by local, regular American citizens standing up for their communities and their neighbors. And those stories also make that courage contagious. So it's so important. And national DC press corps is not going to do any of it.
Well, and before we're going to jump in a moment to a member of Defiance.org who has a message for you, Tara, but I want to ask you finally about exactly that, this big looming threat and what you all might be doing about it in 2026. I mean, we see the president daily engage in incitement against people in your profession. As our friend Brian Karem always says, the only constitutionally protected profession is journalism. It's mentioned in the First Amendment of the Constitution. The president incites people against journalists every day. He's been using access as leverage. We talked about this happening with the White House press pool, but it also happened at the Pentagon. They tried to get Pentagon reporters to sign NDAs and to, not pursue actual stories. And when they wouldn't sign that, they kicked them out of the building, to say nothing of Donald Trump's defamation suits against news organizations, attempts to take over news organizations inside the U.S. government, to turn them into propaganda mouthpieces, to have friendly investors take over news organizations out there that he doesn't like. He's made threats to revoke broadcast licenses. He's made threats against individual journalists. He's opening criminal investigations, and he's revoking protections for them. And that's just a sample list of the things he's doing. So you're in a profession that's under siege, but you all are doing this in a way that defies the censorship, and in 2026 goes a step further. You are trying to make sure people get information to help get us past this period in American history. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about what your agenda is for this year.
Yeah. And look, Miles, you know better than most people, none of us are safe, right, from this administration. And I think one of the most important things that can be done is to not let them fearmonger us into submission or silence. And what's equally important is that we are much stronger when we are collectively working on this work, right? Lone actors, individuals, or one-off companies, like if they're not banding together, they're operating out of fear, and eventually they're not going to stand up. I mean, we changed our tagline at Courier after the election in 2024 to News with Courage. We exist to fight authoritarianism and this MAGA brand of really corrupt and cruel politics. And so we won't back down, and our reporters feel much more emboldened because they know that we'll have their back to the degree we can, but also that this work is not optional. It is the only thing that matters, is that we make sure that we continue to bear witness. We help everyone else bear witness. We break through these algorithms to be able to make sure that people stay informed, enraged, and engaged. And of course, what we're focused on this year is the midterms. I mean, as a former political strategist, this should be a tsunami for Democrats up and down the ballot, regardless of their terrible lack of support and favorability and trust by the American people, purely because of a referendum on this administration. It's deeply unpopular. What they're doing is deeply unpopular. And yet it's really, 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 really important that we don't take that for granted, because we know that they are going to screw with it. They're going to screw with the elections. They're already planning so many things. Trump said last week, maybe there doesn't need to be one. There's no floor for these people. And so we are really, really, really focused on how do we do our part, especially as a local news network, at making sure that we are reaching as many folks in the most competitive districts within our states as possible. That's going to be a lot of our expansion this year, is just getting really hyper local in a lot of our states, because the congressional and state legislative maps matter so much. And that'll be a big focus area, but also it needs to go beyond elections. We need to be able to start building movement muscle in ordinary citizens. We're seeing it happen organically, but economic boycotts, labor strikes, these are things that transcend politics, that deeply matter and can be deeply impactful. And so we see ourselves as having a role and a responsibility in bringing our audiences along into more of those actions as well.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear it. You are the nation's leading opposition news organization, and I will tell you, our members are very, very excited about that. I mean, when we had our last members meeting, we heard from thousands of people about how they wanted Defiance.org this year to be engaging in the midterm elections, and not just in the traditional way of, go fund a super PAC and let's find good candidates, but to make sure the American people have the infrastructure for a free and fair election. And one of the most crucial pieces of that, and I know personally because Donald Trump is going to try to hijack executive orders that I wrote for him to claim he can seize ballots and change voting laws. He cannot do that. And so people are going to need good information from the frontline organizations like yours to make sure this is a free and fair election and we restore our country. So with that, Xander, let me throw it over to you, because I think we have a Defiance.org member who wants to make an announcement.
You can throw it to me, and I'm going to throw it right to that member because I'm so happy, Terry, you spoke about your work in these key districts. We promised our Defiance members we were going to bring a scalpel to this fight, not a hammer. We were going to be specific in how we won and partner with the best orgs. And so before I go on, let me throw it to the member real quickly, and then we can continue.
Hi, Defiance member Jen Jackson from lovely Dallas, Oregon here. And on behalf of all Defiance members, I am proud to award a $10,000 grant to Courier to help advance their very important work in critical districts in advance of the midterms. Thank you for what you're doing on behalf of all of us.
Woo-woo! All right. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen. We appreciate you doing that. Tara, look, this is a starting point. We've had conversations with you, and we've started to have conversations with our extended membership about wanting to do more with Courier Newsroom. You guys are doing extraordinary work. We're so excited as a starting point to throw a grant in there, but also it's even bigger than that, because after you jump from the program, we're going to tell people a little bit about something that we've already decided to partner on. So stay tuned for that, folks. But I am very excited to see what you guys are doing in swing districts this year. And I just want to get your reaction to that, Tara. How important is it that we get that accurate information to swing districts, especially in light of the threats from the Oval Office to undermine the voting system itself?
I mean, it's absolutely mission critical. I just want to say thank you, Jen, for that announcement. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the community. It matters so much. That goes a really long way for us to bring more folks in the funnel and get this good information in front of them. It's everything, right? We know that good information is the antidote to what is happening in the autocracy that we are facing right now. We've got to keep people informed to get them out into the streets and to take other actions. So the ability for us to do more of it, to reach more people with our journalism, it's why we're here. It's the most important thing. So we're really grateful for the partnership and to work with you guys to get more people into the Defiance community too, who are desperate. Everyone in this country is looking for ways that they can get involved. Truly, they're just asking what what more can they do? And so I'm really grateful and appreciative for the work you guys are doing.
And for Defiance members, not only are we backing really great strategies, I just want you to know, I want to give Tara some of her flowers while she's here. I want to be Tara when I grow up. There's few people in the space that do what we do, where we try to build infrastructure, stand it up, put in leadership, build something new. Tara's been best in the business. She's been the goat of our space for a little while now. So not only are we funding an effective strategy, we're putting weight behind a leader that has shown that she can execute really hard things time after time after time. And so, you thank us. We're so grateful you're out there building this stuff. We couldn't do this without you, and so we all need to play these different parts. It's a good segue actually to the actions that, before the show, I asked you, Tara, what else our members could do, because we write grants, but we also take action together. And so I think we've got a screen up for that. One, sign up for a Courier's national newsletter. It's called The Roundup, but they also have, and I have a link to it, they also have a bunch of other newsletters that they write. So sign up for the national newsletter. Then go to their local page and sign up. If they have a newsroom in your state, sign up for that newsroom. And then last but not least, make sure also to subscribe to your local newspaper. As Tara mentioned, there's not enough people that are paying for good journalism in their area. It holds power accountable. It gets us good information. And so that's our actions for the week. If you go to defiancehq.org, I'll put that back in. There's already an action in there that links out to each of these steps. And so we try to make it easy for you all to complete these actions. Tara, we're behind you. Keep up the good work. This is the first of many things, as we mentioned, and we're going to go win this fucking thing together.
Yeah, we are so grateful for you guys and for the whole community. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, my friend.
Can't wait for the announcement that's coming.
That's right. It's coming. There is an announcement coming, folks. I'll just say this, Xander. I mean, one of the things that I love about Tara and what they are doing at Courier Newsroom, first of all, they've built a juggernaut. I mean, the organization's remarkable, but they are unafraid to say what's happening in this country, that there is an attempted fascist takeover in Washington. They're not scared to say that. I go on a lot of the different news networks. Almost all of them are terrified to say that. Those news organizations, they don't want to weigh in. They want to give both sides equal time. Well, you know what? If we were living in Nazi Germany, knowing what we know now, we wouldn't be so interested in giving both sides equal time. And what Courier's been so good at doing is just putting the truth out there, saying it loudly. It's not a difference of opinion about whether there's an attempted autocratic takeover. You just need to go read the Constitution and then open your eyes and see what's happening. And a conservative sitting right here and a socialist sitting next to me on the screen can agree on that.
Yeah, it's crazy that like the kind of old legacy media just cannot help itself. But when they present two sides, it's like two partisan sides versus two sides of a legitimate argument. It drove me crazy the other day when I saw the shooting in Minneapolis, the second shooting. And the New York Times reported that DHS said it was a Venezuelan criminal that was evading arrest and fighting with the officers. It's like, well, I don't even know why we're quoting these guys anymore. How often, how frequently do they have to lie to you to say, hey, maybe this isn't who we should be getting information from? Secondly, and I'll say this, it's funny, the folks that are speaking truth to power are the ones benefiting too. Courier is growing like gangbusters because they're doing this. So the whole like keep your head down so you're safe thing does nothing for you as a journalist or as an organization, etc. We're growing like crazy. Courier is growing like crazy. Keep calling it out, as you see it, and people respond. People aren't dumb. Everyone sees what's going on. It's really the kind of elites and traditional media that are the only folks not calling it out in the ways that everyone else sees it. So it's awesome to be a part of their ecosystem, some of their supporters, and we're just going to keep this thing rolling with them.
Well, and I'll just say this, a big thank you to Defiance.org members. I'm very glad that you have pushed us as a club to start doing more to directly support different new media organizations that are going to be playing critically in these elections. I mean, today's weekly mission brief and these actions tie exactly to what we were talking about last week, about Donald Trump fantasizing about seizing ballots, which is something he told the New York Times just a little over a week ago that he wishes he he had done in 2020, which is a roadmap for what he might do this year. Conversations the president has had in the past 7 days about canceling elections, and his discussions about saying he's going to undertake a nationwide campaign to crack down on mail-in ballots. These are all things the president of the United States cannot do, but he claims to be trying to do. And it could not be more important that we have news organizations out there willing to say this is black and white. These are not shades of gray. This is lawless. This is autocratic. We have to fight it. So Courier is doing exactly that. Very proud for us to associate them. Hope this is the beginning of Defiance.org doing a lot more to support that organization and its amazing work. Now, Xander, that leads us into the final portion of our program. We promised that we had an announcement, and the announcement fits with today's theme of new media fighting back against censorship. And before we bring on our guests, I just want to talk about where this originated. And I want to get you telling us a little bit about the organization that's going to come and join us. But at the outset of this, a few months ago, we said, you know, what is going to be the biggest moment next year in 2026 to call out Donald Trump's abuses of power, to call out the litany of constitutional violations and democratic norms that have been imploded. And very quickly, we came to the conclusion we need to counter-program his State of the Union address. Donald Trump, of course, now back in office, has not yet delivered a State of the Union address. He delivered, of course, his inaugural address last year, but this year will be his first State of the Union address back in office. And if it's like any of the others in his first term, it will be chock full of lies. But this time, he does it as a very clear wannabe dictator. He's aspiring to do things he was never able to do in his first term. And that message needs to be countered more powerfully than ever. And you, Xander, had an idea for an organization we might partner with to put on such an event. Tell us a little bit about them.
Well, I don't know if they're as much an organization as the symbol of the resistance at this point. You know, we've talked a lot about what works when confronting fascism. And a lot of the tactics that have worked historically have been forcing the fascist powers to clearly look like the bad guys by putting them up against an opposition that is clearly not violent and can't be cast as the domestic terrorist that they want us to cast us as. Whether that's, you know, King with the children he put at the front of the civil rights movement, the Russian Revolution, the old women that walked downtown Moscow and forced the soldiers to lay down their arms. And so turns out, you know, the Americans, like everything else, do things in style. And so we had a brigade of frogs emerge in Portland and start dancing to EDC music and really show, you know, Trump and his cronies to be the liars that they are. And so I reached out to them. I'm in Portland. And so it was easy for me to walk across town, meet with these guys and say, look, we've got to team up. You guys are quickly becoming a great example of exactly how we stand up to fascism here in America and show them that we are nothing but law-abiding citizens that want to see our democracy work. We're not here to hurt anyone. We just want to see this thing function. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Wow.
That was a long intro, but I'm very excited to bring these guys on.
Without further ado, we'll bring them in and we'll talk about what we're planning. Let me welcome first Ribbit Wrangler, who is the co-founder of the Portland Frog Brigade. His name speaks to his mission in this moment, wrangling an army of frogs to model and advocate for peaceful creative dissent in support of the resistance. He joins us from his native pond in Portland, Oregon. Ribbit, welcome to the program.
Hi, guys. Nice to
Great to have you here. I'm also thrilled to welcome Slurmit the Frog, who is another co-founder of the Portland Frog Brigade and a lover of costumes and theater. Obviously, he found his place in this resistance when he saw a costumed frog get sprayed in the frog hole. Though this is a serious matter, the symbol of the frog now brings hope and joy to people during these troubling times. Slurmit, welcome to the program.
Hello, everybody.
Friends, it's great to have you. I want you to tell me, I know people are waiting on pins and needles. I said we're going to counter program the State of the Union. I'm going to tell them what I mean by that in a second, but I want you to tell me how this all began. Talk to me about what happened in Portland, how the frogs responded, and what it told America.
Yeah, sure thing. Hey, first off, it's really good to be on your guys' show. Appreciate what you're doing so much. Enjoyed the other guests on the show as well. again, thanks for having us here. So back in October of 2025, one dude was standing in front of the ice facility here in Portland, and he was wearing an inflatable frog suit just because he likes frogs. And it was just kind of a happenstance thing. And he was standing up against a bunch of ICE agents that were defending the ice facility, and they pepper sprayed him right up his vent hole, which is pretty brutal because this thing is a little ecosystem, and it's your own little tent. And believe me, you don't want pepper spray blowing up here. So that moment went viral. And then Slurmit, who's my co-founder here, started to go out there as well. So he saw what Toad was doing. He was the original frog, and he decided to stand out there on the line with him in solidarity. So got in his own frog suit and continued to do that. And I saw what was going on, and I reached out to Slurmit and said, hey, you know what? I think this could have a lot more impact than it does here in Portland. I think this could have national impact on the resistance, and maybe we should do something with this. And he agreed, and so we formed this into an organization. We've got 80 people in our Signal chat, and we've got about 20 of those that are active frogs that we dispatch those frogs to partner organizations who want to amplify their events using a frog, because we have we get a lot of attention, and we're a lot of fun, and we bring a lot of community joy and a sense of community resilience. So we work with Indivisible and No Kings and 5051 and organizations like that, and we're on call. We go where we're invited, and we ask how we can be of service and amplify people's events. And we have been having a blast doing it. It's been an absolute fun. We spend a lot of time down at the ice facility. Still, we have a regular Frog Fridays, and then we're also going out and doing stuff within the community. And so, like when the kids go out and have a walkout from their high schools, we'll go out and stand on the corner and march with them, and just to support them and stuff like that. So it's been a great experience.
I want to ask you. You guys talk about how the absurdity is more effective than anything at highlighting the insanity. Why do you think that continues to be so powerful and effective?
Well, they just have no way to respond to it. It's like if you come up with them in their face in a megaphone or yelling at them, it's something they can fight back against. But when you come up just like this, or as a unicorn or a T-Rex, whatever it is, they kind of go blank. They don't know what to do. So it's just a great way to calm the tension, de-escalate, which is what we're all about with the Frog Brigade, and just kind of throw a wrench in their plans.
Well, it works, and I'll tell you what, we're going to do some of that, and I want to give Xander the mic again. I'm being mic hog today, Xander. Sorry, this is just a classic.
It's a fun episode. It's a fun
episode. Look, we got frogs, we got announcements, we're supporting great organizations. How could you be upset? The very exciting thing is we are teaming up, Defiance.org, with the Portland Frog Brigade to counter-program the State of the Union address. What do I mean by that? I mean February 24th in Washington, D.C., at the National Press Club, we are going to host State of the Swamp, the rebuttal to the State of the Union address, with a huge lineup of current and former elected leaders, opposition figures, national organizations, major folks who are fighting back against the fascist takeover of the United States. And we are thrilled to do that with the Portland Frog Brigade. You guys have become the symbol of defiance in this country, and I cannot think of a better moment for the Portland Frogs to descend on the nation's capital than that night, the night that Donald Trump is probably going to take to the House floor and say, there are terrorists and insurrectionists taking over this country. And we are going to show that those terrorists and insurrections are dressed in frog suits, peacefully defending the United States Constitution. Frogs, let's see those, what do they call them? Frog feet? Frog legs? Let's see those frog legs.
Flippers, I think, technically.
What are they called?
Xander, I'll throw it back to you.
Look, I'll say, as a progressive in this country, I've been involved in lots of different protests and participated in, and I'm going to be honest. Like, a lot of my friends were I know the founders of BLM, the leaders of that movement. It was uncomfortable at times being in those protests. They felt aggressive, they felt scary, and like nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you got to bring that message. But it does kind of cap sometimes the mass participation you can get. And Ribbit, you were telling me a story about a young person you took to the protests in a frog suit. And they came after you guys were leaving. They said, that was so fun. When can we do it again? And we hear a lot from different organizers about this 3.5% of the country that needs to be involved to kind of really turn the tide and push back fascism once and for all. That energy and that comment even has stuck with me since you told me it. Yeah. And I think it's exactly what we need to start getting to those numbers. There's only so many people that want to come out and black bloc and face down and intimidate ICE agents. There's a lot more people that are willing to join a dance party in a suit and continually come out for that too, because there's a stamina issue we also face in these resistance. And it feels like that joy and that fun can solve some of those participation stamina issues.
Absolutely. Yeah, we like to say we are lowering the on-ramp to participating in the resistance. We make it easier, we make it more fun, make it more accessible, make a better party, frankly. And yeah, I took my daughter. That's who you were talking about. I brought my 14-year-old daughter, and it was absolutely amazing to have her there. And she just loved being there and now asks to go back. And it's just like, and normally it's, if you're standing on the front lines and having a pepper spray aimed at your face, not everybody's willing to do that. And you're right. Our goal is to ultimately get to a point where we can have enough critical mass in the nation to create actual momentum and actual change. And we feel like that 3.5% of the population consistently resisting is what we're targeting. And I think in America, that number is probably going to be higher because we're so individualized and so decentralized. But that's the critical number, right? Is to get people on the street, to get enough people that are consistently mobilizing with this resistance to be able to get some momentum. So we feel like because we are opening up the resistance to so many more people who might not otherwise feel comfortable doing it, that we have a good chance of making that number.
Beautiful. Miles, you're on mute, buddy. Did I do it?
Yes, that never happens.
I didn't unmute, and Miles had a mute issue. It's the first.
That never happens. Slurmit, tell me why it's important for you guys to be in the nation's capital for the State of the Union.
Well, that is the hub of where Donald Trump currently wants to destroy the Constitution. So if we can get a large number of frogs, make a scene, a peaceful scene, of course, I think it can really draw a lot of eyes' attention to the absurdity of this administration by us amping the absurdity in our costumes. Now, obviously, all of these issues that we're talking about are not funny. They're not funny at all. But it doesn't mean we can't have a little fun while we protest them, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, look, I am very excited to be doing this with you all. We are thrilled. Let me give folks the final details of what's going to happen next. Is people should be ready. Tomorrow at 12 noon, we are going to open up the pre-sale for the State of the Swamp, the rebuttal to the State of the Union in Washington, D.C., for in-person live tickets. If you cannot make it in-person live, there will be virtual tickets. You can watch the event streamed free across the country. We are also thrilled to announce that the organization we just brought on to sponsor, Courier, is going to be participating and helping us get that out to the country. They're going to help co-host this program to make sure that we reach millions of Americans with that program. We get out there, we get the word out there, and there's going to be an opportunity for folks to sign up to have a virtual VIP experience if they can't be with us in person, but they really, really want to be involved in that rebuttal to the State of the Union. That pre-sale starts tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. We're going to open it up to members of Defiance.org. If you are a member of Defiance.org, you will get that unique pre-sale access tomorrow at 12 noon. If you are not a member of Defiance.org, you can sign up today, and you will get that information. Sign up today. We will get you access to the pre-sale tomorrow at 12 noon, and then tickets open to the public this Friday at 12 noon Eastern. Now, Defiance.org members, you will be the first to know who is speaking at this event. Like I said, we're going to have current and former elected leaders, senior opposition figures, folks from around the country at this event. It will be the rebuttal to Donald Trump's State of the Union. You do not want to miss it. So look in your inboxes tomorrow and be ready at 12 noon Eastern. Those will go live for members of Defiance.org. And then, like I said, available to the public starting this Friday at 12 noon. Frogs, anything to add?
Dude, we're just psyched to be with you guys and doing this stuff in DC. We're about creative, peaceful resistance. That's what we're about. And raising our voices, in support of the Constitution and the rule of law. And I can't think of a better place to do that and a better time to do that than in DC during the State of the Union, right up in the grill of this regime.
Right up in the grill of this regime. Yeah, slurm it. Sorry, go for it.
3 words, frogs together, strong.
Frogs together, strong. We got this. You guys, I have to say, Ribbit Wrangler, Slurmit the Frog. We're going to give you a round of applause. If folks are following on social media, hit the heart button, hit the like button for these guys. We are so thrilled to team with you. We will see you guys in Washington, D.C., February 24th. Thanks for joining the program today.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.
Xander, I could not be more excited about this. I will, by the way, members of defiance.org, you'll get information before 12 noon Eastern tomorrow, so you know when and where and how to access that pre-sale for the event. We will send it out to you. I will say, Xander, we're already hearing from folks who haven't been invited as speakers yet, saying, wait, how do I become a speaker at this event? The lineup is stacked. The lineup is stacked. We have celebrities and top opposition figures. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, this is the rebuttal the DNC wish they hosted. We're
So
going to be
true.
home to the real rebuttal, man. Yeah, it's going to be great. And it'll be great to see so many of you in person. You know, it's awesome, this new media world we're living in, that we can scale things like this so quickly. But I do spend my life in my 4th bedroom at my house. And so getting out there with all of you, seeing you in person, having some fun and fighting back is going to be fantastic.
Well, and I'll say this to make life easier on our back end folks and our tech support folks. If you want that early access to the pre-sale, make sure to sign up by midnight tonight as a member of defiance.org, because past that cutoff, it's going to be too tough for the guys to go back into the systems, figure out who's joined as a member. So as long as you join defiance.org by midnight tonight, you'll get access to that pre-sale as well. We hope to see as many of you as possible in Washington. And by the way, some of those packages allow you to get your own frog suit, and there are going to be opportunities to don that frog suit. So stay tuned for that. You'll see some of that on the event page, and you'll find out more in the coming weeks. We are incredibly excited to do this. The Portland Frog Brigade folks are geniuses. They are brave. They are amazing. They have become a symbol of the Defiance. They're going to be great to do this with. And again, same thing with Courier. Courier has become the opposition newsroom, and we are just thrilled to team with them as well to make sure we get this out to the nation.
Miles, can I make a stronger CTA to anyone listening?
Yes.
Join the Defiance now. Like, you see what we're doing. There's not another organization out here working this hard to make sure you have stuff to do on we used to be weekly. Now it's daily basis. We're giving action steps to fight back. We're bringing in the best leaders in the country. We're throwing the kitchen sink at this thing in the way that we wish our leaders in government were. And so, but we need to be bigger. If you're a Defiance member, tell 5 friends to join the Defiance. If you're not a Defiance member, sign up now. We need gas in the car so we're ready to drive this thing. We have members participating at scale. We're ready to drive this thing right at the issue. But I'm mixing metaphors now at this point. But sign up. If you've been listening to us for a while, the goal is not for me and Miles to be pundits and media personalities. This is just a medium to get you the information you need and get you fired up about doing things.
Yeah. Second that, brother. Most exciting cause I've ever been involved in. And I know we say all the time, you know, these are dark times. People are doom scrolling, but I will repeat again and again, it is an honor to get to fight to protect the rule of law and a constitutional way of life in this country. It's an absolute honor to do that. And if you want to make that switch from being depressed every day about what you're seeing in the news to being enthused and inspired and energized to take action to counter it, come join this organization. This is what we do. We crowdfund amazing efforts around the country to fight back against those abuses of power, and we crowdsource actions to amplify those groups that we support. So we're out there doing it every single day, folks. Thrilled to have the members that we have. Now excited to say we've got Defiance.org members in all 50 states, more than 10,000 people across 50 states that are part of that core club. This is incredible. It's been great to work with this team. I'll remind folks that if you are a member of Defiance.org, tomorrow you will get an email from our member hub, defiance.news. That's where you can find all the information about what we announced today. You'll be able to find a replay of the episode, and we will send you those actions that we put up on the screen, your actions for the week. So stay tuned. You'll get that email in your inbox. If for some reason you don't, just head over to defiance.news under the actions tab to see the replay of this weekly mission brief. Now, before we leave, Xander, I just want to highlight the Defiance win of the week, which we didn't have a chance to do earlier. We had to jump into the program, but we always want to highlight a Defiance win in these programs. And this week, we saw, of course, ICE operations escalating in Minneapolis, and journalists covering those protests, as we alluded to earlier, have faced growing hostility. Cameras draw attention because images hold proof. The photos do not lie. And ICE knows that. And the government has been terrified by that. And this week showed why independent photojournalism matters and why journalists protect each other in real time. For this Defiance win of the week, we focus on a split-second act between two photojournalists that preserved the visual record as federal officers moved to detain one of them. On January 15th, 2026, Minneapolis photographer John Abernathy was covering protests outside the Bishop Henry Whipple Federal Building, which has been used to hold people detained by ICE. You've heard a lot about that building. Now, pro-ICE demonstrators nearby were carrying bear spray. And Abernathy says he grabbed a can from one demonstrator and tossed it aside so it would not be deployed near the crowd. Seconds later, federal officers accused him of spraying the crowd and tackled him. As officers forced him to the ground, Abernathy threw his camera away from him to keep it from being seized, a Leica M10R with a 28mm lens. There's that camera. In a split second, nearby, fellow photojournalist Pierre Levy captured that exact moment and caught Abernathy's camera by its strap, securing it. Levy then lunged for Abernathy's phone as it was thrown, managing to pull it away even as federal officers tried to stomp on it. Quote, "I had to hungry hippo my hand in and out to avoid my hand getting stepped on, and I managed to finally grab it and get away," Levy told HuffPo. After days of trying to locate one another, the two met at a hotel. Abernathy got his camera, and he got his phone. Because of that coordination, the equipment survived, but so did the record of what happened outside that building. The Defiance win of the week goes to those two photojournalists and to independent media everywhere who are covering the Trump regime's abuses of power. That is today's episode of Defiance Daily. Folks, this is our weekly mission brief every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can tune into the weekly mission brief, and we hope to see you tomorrow for a regular episode of Defiance Daily, Dispatches for the Defiant. Thank you, friends. As always, stay loud, stay brave, and stay together.